Hey, Screenmates, I'm Nick. This is...
Okay, all right. You can't just change it suddenly and be like, this
This has always been the bit for this thing. This has always been the bit.
It's always like, I'm Nick, I'm Steph, I'm Miles, and we go down the line.
I believe, let's just check the tape. I believe it's I'm Nick, this, and then it goes to there and there. But we'll see who's right.
All right,
and it
fine.
could very well be you. But I'm Nick. Hey, Screenmates, I'm Nick. This is...
Steph!
And Miles!
And this is Chris, the screenplay fish, a.k.a. today, James Pond.
I feel like you're waving this around in my face a lot.
Okay, so a.k.a. James Pond, named by Jim Man TV.
Licensed to chill in that little box.
Because the water's quite cold?
Yeah, probably.
No, it can't be. It's a tropical fish.
No, the
Shit,
water's
we're gonna
fine, the
kill
water's
him.
fine. Don't contact any of the authorities, the water temperature is fine. Miles, dip in a digit and check.
You know where they live in the rice paddies of like Thailand and Indonesia and stuff like that.
Do they really?
Yeah, like
Are we
in
really
little warm pools of tropical water.
Let's talk about games though. But before we do, Jim Man TV, send in that name if you want to name that fish. Submit a name in the comments below or on Twitter using the hashtag #NameThatFish. Today, not talking about fish, even though we did for about 45 minutes at the beginning of this episode. Today we're talking about the fact that games, why do they take so long to get good? Let's answer this question.
A little bit like this episode, wouldn't you say?
Oh!
This one's been solid from the get-go. So here's my thinking. I've played, over the last week, 2 games that just suck for multiple hours at the beginning. I'm talking Kingdom Come and Metal Gear Survive. That they just take so long to whir up. Is this something we should be allowing, Stephanie?
Here's what I think. Back in the day, ye olde day of games,
Tetris?
you would play a tutorial.
Yeah.
A tutorial was always standard to teach you the controls. I remember like Lara Croft, remember you had to do like the original Tomb Raider games, you had to do like a weird obstacle course near the mansion.
Yeah, that's right. In her house
with the
or
guy
something.
with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tray of teas, like walking really slowly.
Yeah.
You remember that?
The butler.
Yeah, and then you would kind of start the game proper. Now, you know, people are trying to create an experience that's fully immersive, and why would you play a tutorial?
Integrated
They're trying to integrate the tutorial as seamlessly as possible, and I feel like that's what drags out the start of the game, because so much of the start of the game is trying to set you up for everything you're going to need to do in the later game, and that's what makes it feel so tedious, because it's just you're learning things.
I mean, I think that's totally true. The problem for me is that they haven't gone past, a lot of games it feels like haven't gone past the idea that a tutorial needs to be really basic. That, I think about Metal
But
Gear...
are you saying that because you're like heaps good at games and you've played a gazillion of them?
So good
You
at
gotta
games.
think that
So good at games.
every game could be someone's first game.
No, I don't
really
mean like, I'm fine with look up, look down, look left, look right. That stuff, I don't care about that. It's more the way that information is conveyed. So, right now I'm playing Metal Gear Survive. The beginning of Metal Gear, look at Mars's face. He already knows what I'm going to say. The beginning of Metal Gear Survive is this like 4-hour long experience where you after an hour you finally get to your like home base, and then you need to start collecting equipment to set up your home base. And it's literally like run 4 minutes this way, fight 3 things, run 4 minutes back here, now build a little bit of your base. Now go 4 minutes over here, and it's this idea that like, oh, everything you're teaching me is important and I need to learn all this. But the way you're doing it is just so boring and shit and not actually indicative of the way that the game plays. It's just this like long, stupid, dull, uninspired, uninteresting process. Whereas games, I feel like games need to grab you at the beginning.
I feel like there's an attitude towards creating any kind of survival experience that it needs to be really tedious, because that's what actual survival
What
is.
life is like.
You know, it's just it's Tom Hanks on the island, you know, trying to build a shelter, and then that shelter getting blown over, and then him developing a relationship with this volleyball or whatever it is.
But that was more engaging than the start of Metal Gear Survive.
I could watch
Metal
the
Gear
whole
Survive.
of Castaway before I get to a part of Metal Gear Survive where I go like, oh yeah, this is something that I feel like doing.
Yeah. Or even like I Am Legend, where you're already well deep in the Will Smith survival journey and he's doing great, and then things go wrong. Like that's a more engaging way of telling this. But Metal Gear
Right.
Survive kind of feels like you're at a foreign school and you have no idea what anyone's saying,
Yeah.
and you are literally just forced to learn your way through this with zero language
with
skills.
menial tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other end of that spectrum for me is like, so ye olde games were very, very basic. Super Mario did not really require a tutorial, because it was like jump on their head, kill the baddie, collect the coin, all good. Everything was pretty self-explanatory, and I really like that about games. It's difficult to design a game that way. My favorite example of like how to do a tutorial right is Left 4 Dead, the original one. And I know we keep going on about Left 4 Dead, but it's just so bloody wonderful. That's the truth. That game didn't come with many instructions. It came with like a 3-minute cutscene at the beginning of the game, which told you everything you needed to know about your enemies, how they worked, how the items worked, in a really, really nice, they didn't push anything on you.
It was entertaining as well.
You saw the guy throw a pipe bomb, and you were like, oh, right, that's what I need to do. And then when you get in the game, they're like, have fun. And that's a really cool experience because you learn. You've been given all the information you needed. It's kind of like bloody Sherlock Holmes. You've got all the information you need, and you just put those little pieces together for the end result.
Yeah, but I think it's different when you have larger, big open world games that have a lot of systems that you need to learn. Like, for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh, you piece of
We were
shit.
playing the other day, and I feel like, you know, even though the first part of that game was so incredibly boring, I still didn't really know what I was doing for quite a while. Like, it was trying to introduce this whole system of eating and going on quests and that kind of stuff in a really, well integrated way. If I had done like a 5-minute tutorial, I feel like we would have gotten into actual game so much quicker and actual fun as well.
But even with the eating and that sort of thing, I think again, it's just this idea that we let games get away with being shit for way longer than we let films or TV shows. Like, people talk about watching Netflix shows, right? And they go, I watched one episode and it didn't grab me, so like, just fuck it all. Just get rid of the whole thing. And that's an 8-hour experience that I've just gone, nah, I'm not interested in doing that. I will play 12 hours of a game, specifically a Japanese game, like most JRPGs and that sort of thing, where it just takes forever to become interesting. And I'm like, oh no, it's cool. Once you get past the first 10 hours, then this game really starts engaging. I think that's just poor design, that you should be an engaging game from the beginning. Story-based games, Uncharted styles of things, Telltale games, these games need to be engaging from the get-go because they go, all we've got is our story. Like, that's the whole thing, and the story will grab you from the beginning, and if it doesn't, because they're copying lessons from films. And I feel like, I think you're right, open world systems are something that there's so many things that you need to introduce. But in something like Kingdom Come, the problem I have, the reason that I find that game so boring, is that it's constantly taking control away from me. All the things that are actually interesting, like the throwing poo, right? Like, throwing poo is the best part.
You can't let go of the throw. You were like, you really wanted to throw that poo.
It's just strange.
It was really important to you.
It's just weird that throwing poo is something I'm not allowed to do in that game. Yeah. That the game takes over this point where it's like, oh, this is where you should be starting to teach me about the combat system. Instead, there's a fight afterwards. But in the meantime, I just watch these 3 dickheads like shoveling shit at a house.
Yeah.
And I go, well, now I'm just watching a film, but it's not a very good film.
So they haven't implemented those systems. You can talk to people and you can fight, and that's kind of all the interactions you can have in that experience.
And that's it. And I feel like we need to hold games accountable to be more interesting at the start. Because why? Like, I don't have the time in my life to play 10 hours or something, but I do!
And it definitely can be done, because you're right, there are games that just manage to implement it really well, and I think it's when you wrap it up in a really engaging story. I think Kingdom Come's issue was that they were trying to set up a kind of very mundane, menial, medieval life, so that when, like, the shit goes down, it's like, oh, what? This was just, like, you know, about running errands and living my humble life, and now all of this, it makes the impact of that big moment greater.
Yeah.
But I think I would rather be engaged from the start so that you don't have that kind of lull. Like, I remember talking to one of the developers from The Last of Us and saying, like, there was just this incredible moment I remember where you walked into after the river, you walk into like a secret base. And it's everyone's there and you're getting introduced to everyone and he's walking you through and there's this incredible moment, you pat a dog and I was just like, I really felt that was like such a beautiful storytelling moment. He was like, yeah, all of that was to cover loading. And I was like,
yeah.
You tricky buggers.
So there's these clever ways you can design things to make it engaging while serving a function.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
The worst thing for me about games being slow burners and in direct relation to movies and television is that I've already dropped $100 on this game.
Yeah.
And the first 10 hours are dog shit. I'm already 100. I feel like I have to get my money's worth. Whereas, like with a film, you get my money. Event cinemas, you've got my money already. I'm already in for this 2.5 hour long ride of this Marvel extravaganza, which I will probably see 2 or 3 times again in the same place. But the thing with games is like I'm already very financially invested.
So they know they've got you on the hook.
Me, yeah, and it's like.
Plus, though, if you have someone who's 15 hours in and they're like, "This game is so good, you just need to get past that like first slog," you're like, "Oh, I want to get to that good bit." So.
Do we give credence to the fact that if you're playing a 100-hour game, the first 10 hours are shit, then that's actually only 10% of the game, which is crap. Which if you went, the first 10% of a film is not good, that's like, you know, potentially 15 minutes, and that's okay.
For the monetary value that you've spent.
Yeah, exactly. That you just go, I only need to put up with 10% worth of stuff, and then everything else is great. But it's like the 10% is the first 10%. It's the first bit. Everything else comes after the first 10%. It's not the 20%.
In the bigger picture, though, it's like 10 hours is a really, really long time to be doing something that you hate. It's like, imagine taking a cheese grater to your feet for 10 hours. You're like, no, but I swear, man, by the end of it, your feet are going to be third grade. I'm like, no! No!
Was that a pun?
really
like,
No,
no, so great?
the weekend was awful. A cheese grater on my feet was terrible.
An odd analogy there.
Though it's funny what you say about that, like the game, it can suck for ages. The interesting thing about this, when I was thinking about it, is that I play lots of games that I'm terrible at and that I find not fun for a while, and those are all like multiplayer focused games. So at the moment, I started playing Rainbow Six Siege. I'm really getting into that. The first 4 hours of Rainbow Six Siege, I did not win a single game. Like I just kept shot in the head and I die, and I didn't get to do anything. But the competition between real human beings was the thing dragging me through. I'm getting better at this game as I go. It's not engaging me from I'm having so much fun because I'm really progressing and this game's really involved or something in the way that I feel like an RPG should. But because I'm getting better at the game, it's like, here's all the systems now, you just need to figure out how you interact with them, as opposed to a video game going, oh, we're going to drip feed this stuff out to you for 10 hours. It's just weird that I'm fine playing Dota for 40 hours before I go, oh yeah, I feel like I'm okay at this.
There's definitely I think we're right about there's definitely a good way and a bad way to do that tutorial, that opening couple of hours in a game. It's like, when I think of riding a bicycle, the training wheels were still pretty fun. There was nothing wrong with the training wheels. But the bicycle's the best part.
Yeah.
Sometimes that tutorial just sucks ass.
But here's the thing, though, that you're only on training wheels, that was 10%. That was only 10% of the entire bike riding experience.
Bike ride was free. Thanks,
there you go. We asked you guys what your screens say about whether or not games suck at the beginning is a good thing or not. Tio. In fact, no, before we get to Tio, let's do titles. Tio, you're after titles. Tio says, usually I give it about 2 hours. That's a gaming session for me. Then I decide if I come back to it. The classic example of a good game that has the worst start is Assassin's Creed 2, which starts with about 7 hours of tutorials, which is very true.
I don't remember that.
It's heaps of cutscenes of Ezio just fucking around with his brother, I think, like his family.
And bullies and...
But every Assassin's...
It's teaching you like the fist fight system and then the combat and the...
Cutscene, have a fist fight cutscene. But every Assassin's Creed game is pretty much like this. Remember wasn't
that game like press circle to remove her shirt and stuff? Wasn't that at the beginning? Or was that Brotherhood?
What is this?
There was like a sexy love scene, and I remember...
sexy love scene?
Yeah, you could press circle and like you would take her shirt off, and then they would like, it was press X and then you would kiss her. It was a very hilarious like...
Yeah, right.
Could you mess this up? Because that's more realistic.
Yeah,
that is funny. Yeah.
You miss the timing, you're like, and you kiss her ear and she's like, get out.
That is true that Assassin's Creed sucks at this. There's that Assassin's Creed game, it's the 3, I can't remember, but there's the one with the set in America with the Native Americans, for the first 10 hours of the game you play as the main character's father. And it's like, oh my god, 10 hours in and I haven't even gone to play as the person that's on the cover of the game.
Yeah, and then I think a lot of people got really attached to that character and they were like...
And then he goes.
Yeah.
And then he goes. BMAC, TLDR, Brian McNamara says you have to give it a window to explain the mechanics and set up the story, like the Taurus level on KOTOR. Is it Taurus? Taurus? I'm not a Star Wars guy. However, Will, is it Taurus or Taurus? Will's shaking his head, he says, I don't know. Will's developed a lot of attitude this year, which I can't say I'm disappointed with. However, if you get out into the main world and they can't engage you there, well, it's a deal breaker. And here I think of Fallout 4, where it's like, oh, this is like, the start there was really engaging, where it's like that before the bomb and that sort of thing. And then when you get out in the open world, it's like, okay, cool, now I can do everything.
I think about like World of Warcraft, you just like, the first thing you do in the game is just like go and kill like 5
to get hides
or something.
Boars or something like that, and you do like that over and over again. I think we've just been conditioned to expect that. But you're right, I think we don't need to put up with it anymore.
You know what I think, actually? I think it's story. I think if a game has a story, if it sells itself on a story, then that's when I get really frustrated with it.
Yeah, right.
All the games that I'm getting frustrated with, Metal Gear, Kingdom Come, recently, I'm going, oh, I want to get to the good story parts because this is all about the blacksmith's son's tale of revenge, and Metal Gear's about whatever the fuck Metal Gear's about.
So you want the game to start with death and then you get straight into revenge.
Yeah, and get into hook me with characters and story. Whereas World of Warcraft, yeah, cool, the lore's great, but you're there because I like watching that cooldown.
Like all those God of War style games, and what was that game like Dante's Inferno? That starts with death.
Great.
Yeah, it starts with death. Do you reckon that's the answer?
I think the game has to start with like a loved one dying, that trope, and then you're ready to go.
Will Beatty says, I don't have that much money, so when I buy a new game, I try to make the most of it, and it's rare that I quit early. That being said, my favorite games like Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch grip me early on, whereas something like Deadpool or Far Cry 4, got boring in the first hour. So again, multiplayer, that seems like a hook. And lastly, coming in from Lara Spear, the whole game. I will play the whole game. If I buy a game, I don't give up on it and finish it eventually. As someone who isn't the best at games, I really dislike when the difficulty ramps up too much for me to adjust, especially when it's straight out of the tutorial. So Lara there will play the whole game, even if the whole game is boring.
That's pretty good. Have you ever walked out of a movie? Like, it's so bad, you're like, this isn't worth my time.
I don't think I actually have. My dad walked out of Passion of the Christ. I just sat there and then had to walk home. Whoa.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Your dad just being like,
and I took the dummy out of my mouth. I said, I'll see you at home. All right, what do you guys think? How long do you give a game before you go, this is too boring and I just give up on this? Do games deserve to treat us better and respect our time more? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to name that fish. We're done.
woo!
Chris, what's your opinion? We never asked your opinion. Wait, what's your name today? And while James Pond has to think about that, why don't you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel? And inspired by James, why don't you come underwater with us with our first play of Subnautica, which is right here. And then there's another video for you to enjoy underneath that. So once you're done with Subnautica, just keep watching all the way down. There's like a year's worth of videos on this channel.